This video was made possible by our generous supporters on Patreon. Check out patreon.com/NWR for all the details.
While the Mana series started off on Nintendo platforms, beginning life on the Game Boy and Super Nintendo, it had a little bit of a Sony phase starting in the late 90s, beginning with 1999's Legend of Mana. Now, 22 years later, Legend of Mana is actually out on Nintendo systems, coming to the Switch in a gorgeous remastered form. We have a full written review up on NintendoReport.com for you to check out. There's more detail there, but if you want the cliff notes, it's a very unique and interesting game with gorgeous art and a god-tier soundtrack. The plot structure is weird, and maybe the combat's just okay, but I highly recommend Legend of Mana. It's great. Despite originally being a PlayStation game, Legend of Mana has some novel connections to Nintendo. For starters, the masterpiece soundtrack is from Yoko Shimamura, who you might know from, well, a litany of incredible soundtracks. She's probably best known these days for her work on the Kingdom Hearts series, but she also made the memorable scores for Super Mario RPG, the Mario & Luigi series, as well as contributions to Street Fighter II and Xenoblade Chronicles. If you don't know about Yoko Shimamura, you're missing out. She's a legend. Another notable Nintendo tie is Legend of Mana's director, Koichi Ishii. He's the father of the Mana series, and also is an original developer of Final Fantasy. He is credited as the creator of Chocobos and Moogles, so despite the fact he left Square more than a decade ago, his presence is still felt. But he did leave Square Enix in 2007 to form Grezzo, a new developer that started working with Nintendo almost right away. Their first game, the WiiWare title Line Attack Heroes, never made it out of Japan, but their next project would wind up being, well, legendary. Grezzo might be a familiar name to some of you because they've worked on the Legend of Zelda series for the past decade. Their first project was the incredible remake of Ocarina of Time, following that up with Four Swords Anniversary Edition, Majora's Mask 3D, and the Switch remake of Link's Awakening, as well as Triforce Heroes, but I feel like everybody forgot about that one. They've largely been a remaster and remake studio for Nintendo, however, as they've also ported Luigi's Mansion to 3DS and Miitopia to Switch. Where Ishii's Mana history has felt most relevant at Grezzo was in their biggest original work, the 2017 3DS game Ever Oasis. While releasing 3 months after the Switch likely wasn't kind to an original title on a 6-year-old system, Ever Oasis was a great game that shares some similarities with Legend of Mana. It almost feels like another stab at the Legend of Mana concept from Ishii. To catch you up to speed, Legend of Mana has a non-linear structure where you place different map tiles across the world, essentially letting you make your own overworld map and also do different quests in numerous different orders. Ever Oasis removes some of the large-scale non-traditional structure and a little bit of the complexity, but it still leaves a lot of the placement customization. In Ever Oasis, you recruit various seedlings that you can place throughout your town to create different booths that then start off different quests and grow in rank. It's far more simplified than the complexities of Legend of Mana's land creation system, but I can definitely see some of the kernels of Ever Oasis being formed in Legend of Mana. The offbeat and dissident narrative is one of the more divisive aspects of Legend of Mana, as it features a lot of different stories that are largely disconnected from each other. It's no surprise that the game's writer, Nobuyuki Inoue, previously worked on entries in the Saga series, as well as the RPG Live Alive, I'm not sure, which features various scenarios set across different time periods. He left Square shortly after Legend of Mana, however, to form Brownie Brown. The company worked with Nintendo a ton, with Inoue directing Magical Vacation and Magical Star Sign on the Game Boy Advance and Nintendo DS respectively. In between those games, he worked on another Game Boy Advance game that a lot of people in the West would love to play. That game was, of course, Mother 3, the long-awaited sequel to EarthBound that likely might not ever make it to America. Brownie Brown eventually became a full-on Nintendo subsidiary, renaming themselves as 1UP Studio. Nowadays, they largely help out on the Mario series, with recent credits showing up on Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury and 3D All-Stars, as well as other games on Switch like Ring Fit Adventure and Animal Crossing New Horizons. Legend of Mana has even more notable names involved with it, including Saga series producer Akitoshi Kawazu, but Shimamura, Ishii, and Inoue are the three most prominent people involved with this game that also have very strong Nintendo ties. So go ahead and check out Legend of Mana if you want to see more of the history of a fantastic composer, and two developers who work closely with Nintendo constantly. You can also go play Legend of Mana if you want to play a fascinating RPG that really takes some risks. It's super cool, seriously. I recommend checking it out. Maybe check a guide if you're having trouble, or just go get lost. Go get lost in a video game. It's super fun. I recommend it. It's a good time. Alright, thanks for watching. And if you want to see more stuff like this, digging into video game history and more than just reviews, be sure to share this with your friends and really get those watches and those likes and those subscriptions coming out of this video, so that way we know, like, you know, this is what you'd like to see, or not. We can do more traditional reviews too. Either way works. Well, we're here to serve. All right, bye.
This video was made possible by our generous supporters on Patreon. Did you know that Nintendo World Report is funded directly by fans like you? When you support Nintendo World Report on Patreon, you get immediate access to multiple exclusive podcasts every month, exclusive Discord channels, an early look at select content, and more. All for as little as $1 a month. Check out patreon.com/NWR for all the details.